What is going on, everybody? Here we are, week 4 of the NFL season, almost a quarter of the way through the season, and the Jaguars will be visiting Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Jaguars go into this game 1-2, while the Bengals just had a tie against the Philadelphia Eagles, so now they have the annoying 0-2-1 record that we're going to have to be repeating and seeing in the standings every week. So here we are. Week 4, the Jaguars look to rebound. They had just an awful week 3, and this is not a very good performance to come off of, especially when you have 10 days of a break. But the Jaguars look to rebound against an opponent that is also looking to get into the win column. They want to get into the win column for the first time, much like the Miami Dolphins, so they're going to be a hungry team. And for this preview video, to help me kind of look at the Bengals side of things, I have Ace Boogie from New Stripe City's YouTube channel. He'll be on here previewing the Bengals side of things. So we're going to get into his little portion of the video right after the intro. Let's get it. So joining me today to help me preview the Bengals side of things, I have my guy Ace Boogie from the New Stripe City YouTube channel. Ace, what's going on, my man?
I'm doing great, man. Glad to be here at UCF Jaguar for sure.
All right, so big matchup this weekend, I guess. Matchup between a couple of teams that are a little bit down right now. The Jaguars are 1-2 going into this game, and the Bengals are 0-2-1 right now going into this. So really tell me about the Bengals side of things, man. What's kind of been going on with your team lately? Let me know some, kind of what the identity of the Bengals, what it looks to be right now.
Well, right now the Bengals are in a state where they're trying to figure that out, right? We've got Joe Burrow. That was the guy. He's, as advertised, has been amazing for us. But we haven't been as explosive as we expected. Going into the season, there were a lot of expectations, especially coming off of a season where Andy Dalton, we finally moved on from him, and we kind of got in a quarterback that we all believed in. However, the offensive line still isn't where it needs to be. The defense hasn't played as reliable as we've wanted it to. And this coaching staff, Zack Taylor, just really hasn't done a great job at all. And so I think that the coaching staff really needs to find its identity. I think the players are there, but this team is a team that I thought right now that would be 2-1 or 3-0, and right now we're at 0-2-1, so it's been very frustrating for sure.
Yeah, so I do want to ask about Zack Taylor, because when they hired him in 2019, he was a really under the radar kind of signing. Like they kind of, signed him and it wasn't really talked about. And then, this year I don't hear about his name very much. So what is Zack Taylor all about, man? Like how do you think he is as a obviously you said you're not too happy with him right now. So kind of tell us, man, what's up with this head coach you guys got?
So Zack Taylor was a guy that they went with when the whole Sean McVay thing kind of took over the league, right? Young coach, great offensive mind. The Bengals kind of struggled the year prior and a couple of years before that with Ken Zampese as the offensive coordinator to score the ball, which is crazy because we've always had weapons on offense. It shouldn't be that hard to score 20 points, but there were moments where this team couldn't score 20 points within 2 or 3 weeks. And so what they did was they wanted to go and move away from Marvin Lewis, who was kind of an older coach, had his own style, and it kind of went stale. And they wanted to go with a new up-tempo kind of guy, a younger guy that was offensive-minded. And that's where Zack Taylor came into play. Now, the thing is, a lot of people from Cincinnati are actually familiar with Zack Taylor because he was an offensive coordinator for the University of Cincinnati a few years ago, where he didn't have the greatest appearance there. He was really bad. He was the offensive coordinator there. But after that, he went to the Rams. He met with McVay. Obviously, that kind of transformed him into kind of a young, hot prospect. And in a sense, the Bengals kind of pounced on it, thinking that, this may be, the next Sean McVay. But honestly, from my perspective, it seems like he may be way in over his head and maybe the next Lane Kiffin, honestly, because he's a guy that I will probably say he's pretty smart, but he sometimes is too smart, and he tries to think too much about the game plan instead of doing the simple things. And it's been pretty easy to see that when he goes against guys like Doug Peterson, when he goes against the Anthony Lynn's, he just is severely outcoached. So right now he's in over his head. He's trying to figure out how to get our run game going. He's trying to figure out how to get pressure off of Joe Burrow, and it's just really not working at this point. But that's essentially where Zack Taylor came from.
So with your quarterback, man, I mean, I really like Joe Burrow, and I'm a little bit jealous that you guys have him, just because you guys were, as much of it as it sucked in 2019, having to go through all that, man. You guys set yourself up in a really good spot where, I mean, you guys, as long as you guys don't ruin him, man, you guys have like a franchise quarterback. So tell us a little bit about what Joe Burrow's been doing, man. I mean, you guys got some weapons like Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon in the backfield. Then you have some like T Higgins out here kind of emerging. So how has Joe Burrow looked, and what are your thoughts about Joe Burrow, and just tell us a little bit about your quarterback.
Well, Joe Burrow, it was something that the Bengals kind of lucked into, right? And obviously they went 2-14, but they weren't really trying to tank last year. Like when Zack Taylor first came in, Andy Dalton was a starter, and they really tried to go out and win football games. They just weren't good enough. With Andy Dalton, you had a guy that was only as good as the team that was there around him. So we had early injuries with Jonah Williams going down. We had offensive line issues the whole year. AJ Green went down. So it ended up spiraling into a season where the Bengals were headed towards that number 1 pick. It wasn't until about week 9 when they were like, okay, we're actually mathematically like eliminated here. There's no way that we can recover, where they went ahead and threw in Ryan Finley. Even when they did that, it was really for them to see if Ryan Finley could be the guy, like similar to what you guys have in Minshew right now, right? He was a pick by Zack Taylor to see whether or not this guy could do it. When it was obvious that he couldn't do it, then they kind of got into a mode where, not to necessarily say that they started to tank on purpose, but they didn't do what it took to actually win. They sat Andy Dalton, they benched him. And while this was going on, there was the Joe Burrow stuff happening in college. And as we saw, Joe Burrow, as advertised, was one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time, and had that crazy 60 touchdown performance. And by the time that we got to around the playoffs and stuff like that, anybody that was doubting him, because there were guys that were Dalton believers, I call them Dalton lovers on my channel. They felt like everything around Dalton was responsible for it, and a lot of guys wanted him to go back to 2015 when he almost won the MVP. But by that time, there was nothing that you could say about Joe Burrow. When he threw those 7 touchdowns, everyone was like, this guy's a Bengal. Like, and he's from Ohio, and it was just perfect for us. And so it was a no-brainer for us to take Joe Burrow. Now, there were some people that were worried, like, hey, is this a one-year wonder kind of thing? But as soon as he showed up to camp and we started hearing things from players and the media, and I myself, I'm kind of connected with some Bengals players, we were hearing all good things. And we were hearing things that he's accurate, he's legit, this is the guy, like, it's no like cap or anything on that. And so when he showed up, this was a guy that not only came in and was able to perform, he also commanded the respect of veterans, which we had never seen. Like AJ Green himself had said that he had never seen a rookie come in like Joe Burrow. And he came in with Andy Dalton, and those guys in 2011 were able to step in after Carson Palmer's exit, after Chad Ochocinco's exit, and take this team to a 9-7 record, where at the beginning of that season, they were only scheduled to win 2 games. So that was big when AJ said that. So I think that was something. And then he became a captain. So with him speaking out on social issues, with him trying to step up as a quarterback, that kind of led to respect being in the locker room. And then we were still kind of worried, right? Because this is an unknown season. Like, no rookies were starting at that point. Like, we didn't have Justin Herbert starting. We didn't have Tua Tagovailoa starting. Like, none of those guys were going to start. And so we're looking at it and we're like, okay, the offensive line, we as fans didn't feel like they put enough back there. But we were like, okay, Joe, he was able to evade the rush at LSU. Maybe he can work with it. We were excited because we had all of these weapons, and a lot of people that were like, hey, once we actually get a quarterback, this team will play how they should. And that's what Joe has essentially established for us. However, the coaching and the offensive line have held him back. Like, this is a guy, as you saw in week 1, came out and should have won that ball game. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of us still dwelling on that. And then you see him in the second week, and he goes out and throws for 60 times. And it's just crazy that this guy is able to put this team on his back as a rookie. Like, honestly, I'm like, it's crazy. It's amazing. But it's also, like you said and you alluded to, like, are they going to ruin Joe Burrow? And that's the biggest fear, right? Because this guy got sacked 8 times last week. We can't have him get hit like that because this guy's the future. But we definitely know that he's our guy. Now the microscope is under this coaching staff. Is this the right coaching staff for him? If not, then we have to move on. But Joe has been as advertised.
So one guy that like a lot of obviously casual NFL fans follow because of fantasy football is Joe Mixon. And Joe Mixon, I mean, he got another big contract and everything, but he isn't producing as a lot of fantasy owners would really want him to. So what's really going on with Joe Mixon? Is it the offensive line that's holding him back? And tell me a little bit about your running back.
Yeah, it's definitely that. And I think people who owned Joe Mixon last fantasy season kind of felt the same way that they're feeling this season. And it's really been, for me, a mix of two things. The offensive line, in terms of the scheme, which is run by offensive line coach Jim Turner, has not worked well with Zack Taylor's Rams offense. Like, it just doesn't work, and it hasn't been able to open those holes for Mixon. And then the offensive linemen themselves aren't very good. Outside of Jonah Williams, outside of Trey Hopkins, you do have Bobby Hart, who's really a lightning rod for our base, but you don't really have good linemen. They're not good at pass blocking. They're not good at run blocking. So as a result of that, Joe Mixon has to get contact at the line. I think PFF had it as him being contacted 50% of his plays at the line of scrimmage last week. And that's what it's really been. It's been that. And then a side effect of that is the fact that he thinks about that, right? So he starts to second guess where those blocks will really be at and whether they'll be open. And then he starts to dance to the left instead because he doesn't trust his linemen. And that's just a recipe for disaster. It's also the play selection. The runs that Zack Taylor gives to Joe Mixon are pretty much horrible. Like, honestly, it's not effective at all. They're still trying to fix this ground game. And this was something that happened last season, and they weren't able to fix it until they actually had that bye week. And after that bye week, that's when Joe really killed it. Joe is a top 5 talent. Like, don't get it twisted. He's a top 5 running back. But behind this offensive line, behind this play calling, it has really handcuffed him. And so I think that they'll try to get him going even more this weekend against you guys, but we'll have to see. I mean, honestly, we've seen this in Cincinnati before last season, and he ended up rushing for 1,100 yards after having an abysmal beginning to the season. So fantasy owners, he may not be getting it going for you right now, but eventually he's going to turn it on because he's Joe Mixon.
So heading into this weekend, man, obviously both these teams are, kind of down right now. Each team kind of needs a win to really stay relevant and stay in this playoff hunt. So how are you feeling about the Bengals? Do you think that the Bengals will get their first win this weekend against the Jaguars?
Honestly, like going into this season, I thought that this would be a game that the Bengals could potentially win. Being that the Jags had gotten rid of so many players, I was like, well, maybe this may be the one. After last week, I'm not so sure, bro. Like, honestly, I think that the Bengals could actually lose this game. And the reason that I say that is because I think that Gardner Minshew, your running back over there, James Robinson, they can make some plays against this defense. And if Zack Taylor does not call plays that will allow us to score touchdowns instead of taking field goals and not making correct decisions, managing the clock right, this could easily be a game that the Jaguars could win. I mean, I was talking to a Jags friend earlier. Greg Ward had a field day on us, so I could only imagine if Chark plays what he would do to that secondary. And this is just a team that's really steamrolling towards, a bad start to the season. I mean, Zack Taylor right now, his record, I believe, is 2-18-1. I mean, that's not good. So could they potentially win this game? Yes, but I mean, honestly, given what I've seen thus far this season, this could be another game that is lost because of the coaching staff and not the players.
Ace, thanks so much for coming on, man. Everybody, I'm going to drop his YouTube link down below. I'll also drop his Twitter, so give him a follow over there. And we're going to be doing some on his channel too, so I'll put all that in the description as well. And Ace, thanks so much for coming on, and good luck on Sunday.
Hey, appreciate it, man. Good luck on Sunday.
So big shout out to Ace for helping me break down the Bengals side of things. So let's get into the Jaguars, man. The Jaguars really going into this game. The biggest fault of the Jaguars so far, and the biggest thing that is holding our team back, is the fact that the Jaguars are not getting any pressure on the quarterback. It's been horrible. The defensive linemen haven't been winning their one-on-one battles, and quite frankly, Todd Wash has been horrible at executing any kind of blitz packages. And Todd Wash is probably the biggest public enemy for Jaguars fans out there because he has been a part of this team since the Gus Bradley days in 2013, and his defense has become stale the last couple of years, and he hasn't been doing a very good job of transforming the defense in any way and trying to make any kind of adjustments like some coaches know how to do when it comes to really fitting the scheme with the players that are available. And he's doing a horrible job about blitzing. Really, this game, one thing that I really want to see is when we send blitz packages, I want to disguise blitzes better. A lot of times when the Jaguars do send blitzes, they're going to have the guys, the linebackers right at the line of scrimmage ready to go ahead and rush. I would rather have a linebacker kind of play like they're going to be covering a tight end off of the tackle, and instead of covering him, go ahead and go in there blitzing, because they're able to account for these blitzes way too easy. And another thing from the Jaguars is that we are not able to stop the first drive. Each of the last 3 games the Jaguars have deferred, and each of the last 3 games each team has drove down the field and scored touchdowns. That has to stop. Have to find a way to break apart the script for the other team and go in there and actually perform well. The Jaguars have just been so bad at that. So coming into this game, those are a couple things that we need to do. Just start off, get a lead early. We need to get a lead early, and we need to find a way to get pressure on a quarterback. Because if we're not able to do it this game, I don't see a game we're going to be able to do it, because the Cincinnati Bengals do not have a very good offensive line. Joe Burrow has been getting hit like crazy, and Joe Mixon has not been able to get any rushing yards this year. So got to find a way to get pressure on a quarterback. Going to have to bring some blitzes, because obviously our defensive line isn't where we want it to be right now, just from a personnel standpoint. And we're just going to have to work with that. There's nothing we can do with the Jaguars personnel, but there's a lot we can do when it comes to executing different blitz packages. So well, hopefully we get DJ Chark back this game. He was a big missing piece week 1, and it just shows whenever we don't have DJ Chark how important DJ Chark is, because really teams, there's really no one on this team that is scary in one-on-one coverage besides DJ Chark, and DJ Chark kind of takes the top off of defense in a way, takes some guys out of the box, and it just helps out. And Gardner Minshew is clearly a lot better with DJ Chark out there. And really, when it comes to Gardner Minshew did not have a very good game on the Thursday night game, and that's not hard to see. He just did not play very well. He was one thing that I really want to see Gardner Minshew focus on better is just his pocket presence. He's jumping out of the pocket too early. He's leaving the pocket too early. It seems like he's feeling phantom pressures. I want him to see him stick around the pocket, man. He's not athletic enough to keep going out of the pocket and running the ball. I want to see him hang strong in the pocket, look confident, and fire off these throws. And another thing I want to see, I'd like to see us go downfield a little bit more, because at this point, we all know we can't expect a lot from the Jaguars this year, so it's almost an evaluation period. And the biggest evaluation going on right now is with Gardner Minshew. So let's see if he can fix the things that he's bad at. And one thing that we haven't really seen him do much is push the ball downfield. I want to see him push the ball downfield. I want to see that he can do it. I want to see some velocity on the ball, and it's just a big year for him. I'm in big evaluation mode. I'm leaning toward a no on Gardner Minshew so far, so I want him to prove me wrong. You know what I mean? So I want a big day out of him. I hope James Robinson still continues, and we're playing at Cincinnati, and I know there's a lot of talk, do we want to win this game? Do we want to lose this game? I want to win every single game. I want to win every single game until it's really out of reach and we're mathematically eliminated. Then I might change up how I look at the season, but as of right now, let's go ahead and go out here. Let's get a bounce back. Let's go 2-2, and then we can move on. And the following week, I believe we have the Houston Texans, and the Houston Texans obviously started off 0-3, so that could be winnable. So it's going to be good. I will be live streaming this game, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And huge shout out to all the members of the channel for your continued support. If you're a member of the channel, you get to have access to these preview videos one day early. And also shout out to GenJag.com for the Duval little Jaguar logo. I think it's a really cool shirt. I can put a link down below if you guys are interested in this shirt. And yeah, let's go out there and beat these Bengals, and I will Let me know some of your guys' thoughts on what's going to happen. I don't think that the Jaguars win. I'm actually leaning toward a no on this. I think the Jaguars, I said on Ace Boogie's live stream that I think the Jaguars lose 35-31. Just a gut feeling, because if we can't get pressure on a quarterback, it's going to be hard to win any games going forward. And Philip Rivers, when we beat him, he gave us a couple of picks. He turned the ball over a couple of times on some really bad turnovers. So, we're going to have to really take advantage of these opportunities if it's there. But first of all, we got to find a way to get pressure on a quarterback. With all that said, this is UCF Jaguar. Thank you for watching. Drop a like on a video. Let me leave your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video.